all the, because if you dig into these, it's going to give you real life examples. I'm throw it back to you to let you close up. There's one quote I want to share. This 2-part lesson that Mark and I covered for you. Great leaders are great teachers. What a great lesson it was from John. And I saw this quote that I just want to share as we kind of wrap up and throw it back to you. It was by Jack Welch. And he said, as a leader, you have to have a teachable point of view. You have to have one. So we're talking about passion.
Yeah.
What a great quote to kind of wrap up with saying, you've got to have a point of view. You have to have something you're willing to come and teach. And when you do that, all 4 points that John gave us over these 2 lessons will absolutely just come out of you. They'll live out authentically as you lead your team or communicate to your team.
Yeah, we talked about this on both lessons, and I'm going to bring it back up here because I'll put it in the show notes. But we talked about this idea of facilitating, of really, and I know it's great leaders are great teachers, but it could have been great leaders are great facilitators because so much of what we do is visible. So much of the change that we have in others is a visual implication or a visual opportunity for people to see that change. And so for all of us that are wanting to better our game, better our leadership game, better our teaching game, better our facilitating lane, get into a community, get into a disciplined approach. And as we kind of launch into 2023, my challenge to all of us is to learn to be a better teacher. Now, you can call that a coach, you can call that a communicator, you can call that a facilitator, but be a better demonstrator of what works.
That's great.
And that's the challenge.
Well, today's topic is how leaders move from good to great. And there's a book, about good to great. We're going to talk today a little bit about how do leaders do that? How are you a good leader? Are you a great leader? How do you move the needle to become a great leader? There's so many factors that really distinguish a good leader from a great leader. And some of the research that we've done and Perry's looked at by Jack Zenger and Joe Folkman, some of the factors are improve communication effectiveness, encourage others. We talk about that on here, to grow and to improve, be a role model, be a champion for your team, recognize when change is needed. Otherwise, you'll become irrelevant. And then finally, the last one we have on here is improve your ability to inspire and motivate those that are in your influence.
Lots of good stuff. And Dr. Zenger and Dr. Folkman doing this research, what they did was they took 360-degree feedback data and looked the critical skills of leaders who were progressing most in their leadership, and they pulled these topics out. The one that I thought, and it's so key to what we talk about anyway, that I thought we should maybe go a little deep on today was about communication effectiveness. I think how you communicate really affects your reputation as a leader. And I want to get practical. I love it. So we'll talk about some of the concepts, but how do we actually get practical about that? And I'd like you to walk away from this time you invest with other data, 1 or 3 things that you can work on between now and with working with your team. So
that's
is that okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. So the first way to increase communication effectiveness is to become a better listener.
Okay, hang on a minute. I just heard with those radios clicking off. And
That's right. That's right. No one wants to do that.
I know. They all think I'm a great listener. Were you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm a fantastic listener.
As my wife says all the time, right? I know you hear me. You're just not listening to me. So I think that there is room for all of us. And what's really key about this is that we often ask a question in some of our training, and we say, we play this would you rather, game in essence. What's more important, to be a better communicator or an effective listener? And then we challenge them. We say, well, whichever one you pick, right? You have to pick this or that. You can't use the other word as you're describing, why you picked the answer that you did. And it's always fun because especially when you get to this one and you talk about communication and everybody's right, it's a trick question. They go, well, I can't do that because they're one and the same. Listening is part of communication, and they're spot on, and we do it and we have fun with it. And we talk about how, really there's a 2-way pathway in regards to communication. And that second pathway is to really become a better listener. You can be a great communicator, but if you're not listening to what you need to communicate, then it's not going to be very effective. Or vice versa. You can be a great listener, but if you don't have the ability to communicate. And so I love that we're going to dive into this and really unpack how do we increase our communication effectiveness. And the first one is to become a better listener.
Well, I find that listening is the number one way to show you value someone. You're giving something you can't get back, which is time. To do that, I think when a leader invests time in actively listening to their people, that it demonstrates respect. You begin to understand team members' points of view. You begin to understand how they think. I just think that when you begin to truly appreciate a team member's perspective, you do that through, you can add so much to your own thinking by just listening and asking good questions and listening actively to what your team members are telling you. So most people think they're better listeners than they really are, as we were joking about a minute ago. So I really wanted to get practical about, are there some things, even if you think you're okay listening, do you think you could get better? I know I could. And so what are some of those ideas? And I thought we could bat that about.
I think that when you become intentional about improving your listening skills, it will absolutely increase your connection with people, your influence with people. We joke all the time about our spouses who are our only two listeners to the podcast, about how you and I could do a much better job of listening. And I think it's something that if we all slowed down and we remove distractions, we could all get better at. But man, we live in a time and a pace where things are moving faster than they've ever moved before. Social media and devices are everywhere, and it's a problem. I even think about the fact that I have a couple of nephews that are staying with us this week, and we love it. We have fun with them, and so I begin to watch the difference in generations and the influences that are in their life take away from their ability to listen. And so, man, I think this is going to be something as we move forward in organizations that we need to continue to focus on. And so here are a couple of things practically to really look at. We're just talking about electronic devices. Put your phone away when you're having a conversation with somebody. There's nothing worse than having a conversation with somebody and their phone is right there and they keep glancing at their phone and it's buzzing and keep going off. Man, if it's gonna be doing that, that's not a problem. Just try to put that away. Remain in eye contact with the individual. Have that connection with them while you're listening. Give them your complete attention. I'll never forget when I was much younger, someone said the greatest thing that you could do is when you're listening to somebody is for them to think, holy cow, there's a lot of stuff going on right now and it seems like nothing else matters but our conversation, because you're giving them complete attention. And then don't interrupt them. Oh man, this is one of the things that just bothers me, is that when I am speaking or I am watching a conversation and somebody just keeps interrupting a conversation, allow them to finish that. And then finally, take notes from what you're hearing from them. I'll never forget,